Ever feel like you're just a passenger in your own life? Like things just happen to you and you're stuck reacting? Why do some people seem to have all the luck, navigating life with a sense of purpose, while you feel like you're constantly fighting upstream? Have you ever looked at your circumstances, your job, your relationships, your bank account, and wondered how you ended up here, and if there's any way to take the wheel? What if the universe isn't random? What if there are rules to the game, and you just were never taught them? Number 15, what if you're already using these principles without knowing it? The person who wrote the Kybalion is said to have also invented the process of alchemy, turning lead into gold. But a less-known detail is that this was meant as a metaphor for spiritual transformation, not literal metalworking. The book itself, published in 1908, has never been out of print, quietly influencing millions without ever hitting a mainstream bestseller list. Many people who follow popular self-help systems are unknowingly practicing diluted hermetic principles, as the core ideas have been borrowed and repackaged for over a century. The phrase "as above, so below," often used in spiritual circles, is a direct, and often misunderstood, quote from the original hermetic texts that form the basis of the Kybalion. You've made it this far. We've talked about the mind, the universe, and the patterns that run through everything. But here's the biggest secret. You are already using these principles every single day. You can't not use them. They are the laws of reality, like gravity. You don't get to opt out of gravity. And you don't get to opt out of these 7 principles. The only choice you have is whether you use them consciously or unconsciously. When you worry, you are using the principle of mentalism. You are creating a mental reality of fear and anxiety. And because your inner world corresponds with your outer world, you tend to attract situations that justify that worry. You are using the power of your mind just in a way that doesn't serve you. When you complain about your bad luck, you are living as an effect, not a cause. You are giving your power away to circumstances. You are a pawn on the chessboard, moved by other forces. That's the principle of cause and effect in action. Every time you get swept up in a mood swing, going from happy to sad and back again, you are riding the pendulum of rhythm. You're letting it control you. When you get into an argument and say hateful things, you are on one end of the pole of emotion. You are using the principle of polarity. You've just forgotten that the other end of that pole, love, is connected to it. When you feel energized and creative, that's your vibration. When you feel sluggish and depressed, that's also your vibration. You are always vibrating at some frequency. The question isn't whether or not these principles are real. The question isn't whether or not you should start using them. The only question is, now that you know the rules, what are you going to do? Will you continue to be a passenger? Will you let your mental states be dictated by the news and what other people say? Will you let the pendulum of life throw you back and forth? Or will you decide to pick up the tools? Becoming a conscious user of these principles isn't about becoming a magician overnight. It's not about snapping your fingers and getting a new car. It's a subtle internal shift. It starts with observation. Notice your thoughts. Are they building the reality you want or one you don't? Notice your moods. When the pendulum swings down, can you find your balance and not get lost in the darkness? This is the art of polarization, of choosing your spot on the spectrum. Notice when you blame others or circumstances. That's your cue. That's the moment you're acting as an effect. What could you do, no matter how small, to become a cause? It could be as simple as choosing your reaction instead of having a knee-jerk one. That is taking your power back. It's about seeing the patterns, the correspondence. How your attitude at home affects your work, how your health affects your relationships. It's all connected. Living this way isn't about being perfect, it's about being aware. It's about understanding that you are a creator. Your mind is the workshop, your life is the result. Most people walk through life asleep, unaware of the immense power they carry within their own consciousness. They build their lives by default. The student of these principles learns to build by design. It starts now with your next thought. Is it a thought of lack or a thought of possibility? With your next emotion, are you going to let it own you or are you going to own it? With your next action, is it a reaction or is it a conscious choice? The universe is not happening to you. It is responding to you. It always has been. The only thing that has changed is now you know. Number 14, how do you actually change your mind? The concept of mental transmutation is central to the Kybalion, but the book spends very little time giving step-by-step instructions. The idea that you can change your outer world by changing your inner world predates the Kybalion by thousands of years, appearing in the Hindu Upanishads and in Stoic philosophy. Many modern therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT, are based on a similar premise: changing your thought patterns changes your emotional state and behavior, which is a clinical application of mental transmutation. The Kybalion suggests this process is the practical art of Hermetic philosophy, implying the other 6 principles are just the theory you need to understand to make this art work. So we've established that everything is mind. The all is mind. Your reality is a mental creation. Great, but what does that mean for you on a Tuesday morning when you've spilled coffee on your shirt and you're stuck in traffic? How do you apply this lofty idea? The answer is the art of mental transmutation. That's just a fancy term for changing your thoughts on purpose. It sounds simple. Just think better thoughts. But it's not. Your mind has a lot of momentum. It's used to running on certain tracks. Worry, fear, self-criticism, doubt. These are well-worn grooves. Trying to just force a positive thought into that stream is like trying to stop a freight train with a feather. It doesn't work. The negative thought just barrels right over it. The real art of mental transmutation is more subtle. It uses the other principles as its tools. The first tool is the principle of polarity. You can't eliminate a thought. The mind doesn't work that way. If I say, don't think of a pink elephant, you just thought of a pink elephant. You can't destroy a negative thought, but you can transform it. You can change its polarity. Fear and courage are not two different things. They are two ends of the same pole. The pole is about your response to a challenge. One end is constricting and paralyzing. The other is expansive and empowering. When you feel fear, you don't try to kill the fear. You acknowledge it, you are on the pole, now you consciously use your will to slide yourself up to the other end. You focus on what courage would feel like, you change your mental vibration, you ask yourself, what would a courageous person do right now? You concentrate on the opposite pole. It's not about pretending fear doesn't exist. It's about choosing to occupy the other end of the same mental spectrum. The second tool is the principle of rhythm. Moods swing. You will have bad days. The pendulum will swing to the negative. Mental transmutation isn't about trying to keep the pendulum stuck on the happy side forever. That's impossible and exhausting. It's about the art of neutralization. When you feel the swing start to go downwards, you don't get swept away with it. You mentally step aside, you observe it, you say, the pendulum is swinging. I am feeling low. This is a part of the rhythm. It will swing back. By not identifying with the low mood, you rob it of its power. You don't feed it with more negative thoughts. You raise yourself above it in consciousness, you stay centered, you know it will pass. This is an advanced mental skill. Most people are completely at the mercy of the pendulum. Their happiness is dependent on the swing. The adept learns to create their happiness from within, regardless of which way the pendulum is moving. This requires concentration, not the kind of gritted teeth forcing, but a gentle, sustained focus. It's like learning to tune a radio. At first, all you get is static, but you keep adjusting the dial. You keep bringing your attention back to the frequency you want. The frequency of calm, the frequency of confidence, the frequency of love. Your current mental state is just a habit. Mental transmutation is the process of building new habits. Start small. The next time you feel a wave of irritation, catch it. Don't just react, observe it. Where is it on the pole? What's the opposite pole? Patience, understanding. Try to shift your focus to that opposite pole for just a few seconds. That's one repetition. The next time you feel anxious about the future, catch the thought. Recognize the pendulum is swinging towards fear. Can you neutralize it by focusing on the present moment, on your breath for just 30 seconds? That's another repetition. This is the real work. It's not glamorous. It's not magic. It is the patient, persistent art of changing your mind, one thought at a time. It is alchemy. You are the alchemist, your mind is the lead, and the gold you are creating is a life of purpose, balance, and inner peace. Number 13 is everything both masculine and feminine. The Ankh, the ancient Egyptian symbol for life, is seen by many scholars as a union of male and female symbols, the T shape representing the masculine and the looped top representing the feminine. In Taoism, the concept of yin and yang describes the same principle of dual, complementary forces present in everything. Yin is the feminine, passive, dark, and receptive force, while yang is the masculine, active, light, and creative force. Many creation myths around the world, from the Greek to the Hindu, begin with a separation of a primordial being into male and female counterparts who then create the universe. The Kybalion's principle of gender is not about physical sex, but about this universal duality of energies that exist in all things on all planes. This is probably the most misunderstood principle of the seven. When people hear gender, they immediately think of male and female in a biological or social sense. But the Hermetic principle of gender is much, much bigger than that. It states that gender is in everything. Every single thing has its masculine and feminine principles, not just people, but plants, rocks, thoughts, and even the other principles themselves. Let's get this straight. This has nothing to do with a person's physical sex or gender identity. A man has both feminine and masculine energy. A woman has both masculine and feminine energy. These are not about your body. They are about two fundamental types of energy that are necessary for any kind of creation to happen. The masculine principle is the active, projective energy. It's the doer. It's the spark, the will, the desire to initiate. It is the energy that pushes outward, that gives, that directs. Think of it as the sower of the seed. The feminine principle is the receptive, nurturing energy. It's the be air. It's the womb, the fertile ground, the patient process of incubation and development. It is the energy that draws inward, that receives, that builds upon what has been given. It is the soil that grows the seed. You need both for anything to happen. A great idea, masculine, without any action or development, feminine, just fizzles out. It's a daydream. A lot of hard work, feminine, without a clear goal or direction. Masculine is just busy work. It goes nowhere. Creation, whether it's starting a business, writing a book, or even just having a conversation, requires a dance between these two energies. Let's look at your own mind. You have a part of your mind that is this is the part that observes, that is aware. The I is the masculine part. It directs attention. Then you have the me. The me is all your thoughts, feelings, emotions, and memories. This is the mental womb, the feminine part. The I can choose to sow a seed of thought into the me. If the I plants a seed of worry, the me will gestate it and produce a whole crop of anxious feelings and scenarios. If the I plants a seed of confidence, the me will nurture it and build a corresponding emotional state. Most people let their me run the show. They are at the mercy of whatever thoughts and feelings happen to be growing in their mental garden. They have no conscious I directing the process. They let random seeds from the news, social media, and other people's opinions get planted in their minds. The Hermetic student learns to take control of the I, the masculine principle of will. They learn to consciously choose which seeds to plant in their own mental womb. On a larger scale, this principle explains how things come into being. An inventor has a flash of inspiration, the masculine spark. Then they spend months or years in the workshop, building, testing, refining the feminine process of incubation. A new law is proposed masculine. Then it goes through committees, debates, and amendments before it is finally born into reality feminine. The key to mastering your life is to find the balance between these two energies within yourself. Are you all action and no planning? You need more feminine energy. You need to learn to receive, to be patient, to nurture your ideas before you throw them out into the world. Are you all dreams and no action? You need more masculine energy. You need to cultivate your will, to take that first step, to project your energy outward. Everything you see was once just an idea, a thought seed. It was planted in a receptive mind, nurtured with focus and work, and eventually born into the physical world. This is the principle of gender in action. It is the engine of all creation, from the forming of a galaxy to the decision of what you'll have for dinner. Understanding it means understanding how to bring your own ideas to life. Number 12, why does everything have a season? The ancient Greeks personified rhythm in the Hore, goddesses who oversaw the orderly progression of seasons and time. The economic data shows clear cyclical patterns, with periods of boom and bust repeating throughout history, a phenomenon known as the business cycle. This isn't a modern discovery. Texts from ancient Babylon describe similar economic rhythms. Your own body operates on dozens of rhythms called circadian rhythms, which control your sleep-wake cycle, hormone release, and body temperature, all without your conscious input. Even your brain exhibits rhythmic electrical pulses or brain waves that change depending on whether you are awake, relaxed, or asleep. This is the principle of rhythm. It's simple. Everything flows, out and in. Everything has its tides. All things rise and fall. The swing of the pendulum manifests in everything. The measure of the swing to the right is the measure of the swing to the left. Rhythm compensates. This is one of the most visible principles. You see it everywhere. The seasons, the tide, the cycle of birth, growth, decay, and death. The economy goes up, the economy goes down. Empires rise, empires fall. You wake up, you go to sleep. You breathe in, you breathe out. It is a constant universal law. Nothing stays still. Nothing stays at a peak forever, and nothing stays in a trough forever. The problem is that most people are completely unaware of this law. They get caught up in the swing. When things are good, they think it will last forever. They get overconfident. They make foolish decisions. They are on the high swing of the pendulum, but because the law is absolute, the pendulum must swing back. And when it does, they are plunged into despair. They think the bad times will last forever. They feel like victims. They are on the low swing of the pendulum. They are like a cork bobbing in the ocean, completely at the mercy of the waves. The Hermetic student learns to be a surfer. The surfer doesn't try to stop the waves. That's impossible. The surfer learns the rhythm of the waves and uses that rhythm to their advantage. They ride the wave instead of being crushed by it. So how do you do that in your own life? The Kybalion talks about the law of neutralization. This is a mental skill. It's about finding the point of balance. It's about not letting your consciousness get swung all the way to one extreme or the other. When you achieve a great success, you enjoy it, but you don't let it go to your head. You know that this is a high point and the rhythm will continue. You prepare for the downswing, not with fear, but with wisdom. And when you experience a failure or a period of sadness, you don't let it consume you. You don't identify with it, you recognize it for what it is, the low swing of the pendulum. You know, with absolute certainty that it will swing back. This knowledge gives you a stability that most people lack. You can experience sadness without becoming a sad person. You can experience failure without becoming a failure. You see it as part of a larger pattern. This is a very high art. It's about raising your consciousness, your eye, above the pendulum swing. You let the pendulum swing within your personality, your emotions, your circumstances, but your core self remains still. You are the calm center of the storm. Think about your moods. They come and go, right? One day you feel on top of the world, the next you feel down. That's rhythm. Most people just ride that emotional roller coaster. The student of this principle observes the mood. I am feeling low energy today. This is the rhythm. I will not make any major decisions from this state. I will be patient. I know the energy will return. By doing this, you detach from the mood. You don't let it define your reality. This principle works hand in hand with polarity. When you feel the pendulum swinging towards a negative state like fear or anger, you can consciously apply the principle of polarity to shift your vibration towards the positive pole of courage or peace. You use your will to create a new mental vibration that counteracts the backward swing of the pendulum. You don't stop the swing, but you escape its worst effects. Don't try to avoid the low points of life. They are inevitable, and they serve a purpose. They are periods of rest, of reflection, of gathering strength for the next upswing. The goal is not to live in a state of constant manic happiness. The goal is to achieve a state of unshakable inner balance, a deep joy that exists underneath the rise and fall of daily life. That is mastering the principle of rhythm. Number 11, can you turn hate into love? In modern physics, every fundamental particle has a corresponding antiparticle with the opposite charge. A positron is the anti-electron. They are two poles of the same underlying reality. The human nervous system operates on polarity, using excitatory signals that say go and inhibitory signals that say stop to control everything from muscle movement to thought. This binary system of opposites is fundamental to our biology. The original Fahrenheit temperature scale was created by setting 0 deg as the temperature of a freezing brine solution and about 100 deg as human body temperature. Hot and cold are not distinct forces, they are just different numbers on a single, continuous scale measuring the same thing, thermal energy. This brings us to the principle of polarity. It says that everything is dual. Everything has two poles. Everything has its pair of opposites. But here's the crucial part. Opposites are identical in nature, but different in degree. This sounds confusing, so let's break it down. Think about a thermometer. At the top, you have hot. At the bottom, you have cold. Are hot and cold two completely different things? No. They are both just temperature. They are degrees of the same thing. There is no point where hot suddenly stops and cold begins. It's a sliding scale. The same is true for everything. Light and darkness, they are the same thing. Light. Darkness is just the absence of light. They are two poles of the spectrum of light, hard and soft. Two poles of the quality of density. Large and small, two poles of the quality of size. Now, let's apply this to the mental plane. This is where it gets really interesting. Take love and hate. The Kybalion says these are not two separate, unrelated emotions. They are two poles of the same thing. They are both about intense emotional connection to someone or something. They exist on the same spectrum. That's why love can so quickly turn to hate, and why stories of enemies becoming lovers are so common. They are right next to each other on the scale. The real opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. Indifference is not even on the same spectrum. What about fear and courage? They are also two poles of the same thing. They are both about your response to a perceived threat or challenge. Fear is the pole of paralysis and inaction. Courage is the pole of action and engagement. You can't be courageous without feeling fear. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is acting despite the fear. It's about consciously choosing to operate from the courage end of the pole. This principle gives us the key to mental transmutation. If you are in a negative state, you don't have to jump to a completely different state. You just have to change the polarity of your current state. If you are feeling fear, you can't just wish it away. But you can recognize that you are on the fear-courage spectrum, and you can use your will to start moving up the scale towards courage. It might start with a small act, a single deep breath, a decision to take one small step forward. You are changing your mental vibration, sliding along the pole. This is a tremendously empowering idea. It means no mental state is permanent. It's all a matter of degree. Are you feeling poor? Poverty and wealth are two poles of the same scale of financial well-being. You can start to change your polarity by focusing on gratitude for what you do have, by celebrating small financial wins, by changing your thoughts from lack to abundance. You are mentally moving yourself up the scale. This is not about pretending everything is fine when it isn't. It's not toxic positivity, it's a conscious, deliberate art. It is the art of polarization. You recognize the negative pole you are on, you acknowledge it. Then you use your faculty of will, your concentration, to focus on the positive pole. Repolarize your mind. Look at the people you admire, people who are calm under pressure. They feel the same stress you do, but they have mastered the art of staying on the calm pole of the calm stress spectrum. People who are kind even to those who are rude to them, they feel the same irritation you would, but they choose to operate from the love, kindness pole instead of the hate, annoyance pole. This principle tells you that you have a choice. You are never simply a victim of your emotions. Your emotions are just points on a scale, and you have the ability to move up and down that scale. You know, it takes practice, it takes will, but it is the key to emotional mastery. You can, in fact, learn to transform hate into love, fear into courage, and lack into abundance, all by understanding that they are just two sides of the same coin. Number 10, what's the real reason things happen? The concept of karma in Eastern religions is a well-known version of cause and effect, suggesting that a person's actions in this life will determine their fate in future lives. However, the Kybalion's version is more immediate and less mystical. In physics, Newton's third law states that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This is a physical manifestation of the principle of cause and effect. Modern chaos theory shows how a tiny initial cause, like the flapping of a butterfly's wings, can lead to massive and unpredictable effects later on, like a hurricane. This doesn't violate the principle, it just shows how complex the chain of causation can be. Nothing is truly random, even a coin flip is determined by the specific forces applied to it. We just can't measure them precisely enough to predict the outcome. The principle of cause and effect. This one seems obvious. Every cause has its effect. Every effect has its cause. Everything happens according to law. Chance is but a name for a law not recognized. There is no such thing as chance. We accept this in the physical world. If you drop a glass, it will fall. The cause is letting go. The effect is it falling. If you put your hand on a hot stove, you will get burned. Because an effect. But we have a much harder time applying this to our own lives, especially to our thoughts and circumstances. The Kybalion states that this law is universal. It applies to the mental and spiritual planes just as much as the physical. Nothing just happens. Your current life situation, your health, your wealth, your relationships is an effect. It has a cause, or more accurately, a complex web of causes that have led to this moment. The book divides people into 3 categories. The vast majority are like pawns on a chessboard. They are the effects. They are moved by the wills of others, by their genetic inheritance, by the environment they were raised in. They are products of circumstance. They feel like life happens to them. They are constantly reacting to events, never initiating them. They live on the plane of effect. Then there are the players, the movers. These people understand the law to some degree. They use it to their advantage. They are the leaders, the innovators, the people who seem to shape the world around them. They try to be the causes. They set goals, they make plans, they take action, they try to dominate circumstances. They operate on a higher plane of causation, and so they master their A-bit of their world. But then there is a third group, the masters. The masters understand the law on an even deeper level. They know that even the players are still subject to deeper hidden causes. A player might achieve great wealth, but still be a slave to their own greed or a victim of a sudden economic downturn. The masters go higher. They don't just try to be a cause on the physical plane. They go to the mental plane. They understand that their thoughts are causes, and those thought causes produce effects in their reality. They work on mastering their own minds, their moods, their character. By changing the cause their inner world, they change the effect their outer world. They don't try to fight circumstances directly. They rise above them. They become the cause of their own mental environment, which then influences the physical environment. Think about it. Why are you in the job you're in? It's an effect. The causes might be the degree you chose, the advice your parents gave you, an opportunity that came up, the limiting beliefs you have about your own abilities. Most people just accept this effect. This is my job. This is my life. The person applying this principle asks, what was the cause? And more importantly, what new cause can I create now to produce a different effect later? They don't just send out resumes that's still operating on the effect plane. They start by changing the cause within themselves. They start to build the mental state of the person who has the job they want. They cultivate confidence. They learn new skills. They change their beliefs about what is possible. They become a new cause. And that new cause will inevitably create a new effect. There is no such thing as luck. The person who gets lucky and wins the lottery bought a ticket. That was a cause. They were in the right place at the right time. But what caused them to be in that place? A whole chain of prior causes and effects. The Kybalion teaches that there is a hidden chain of causation behind everything. What we call chance is just our ignorance of the full chain. The goal is to stop being a pawn. Stop being just an effect. This requires you to take full responsibility for your life. No more blaming the government, your boss, your parents, or your bad luck. Those are all excuses that keep you trapped on the plane of effect. You are where you are because of a long chain of causes. The good news is you can start a new chain of causation today. With your very next thought, choose to be a cause, not an effect. This is the foundation of all personal power. Number 9. Why does everything keep moving? Even an object that appears perfectly still, like a rock, is a storm of activity at the atomic level. Its atoms are vibrating violently, and the electrons within those atoms are moving at incredible speeds. The theory of absolute 00 Kelvin, or 273.15 deg Shi, is the hypothetical temperature at which all molecular motion would cease, but the laws of quantum mechanics state this is impossible to achieve. Some motion, known as zero-point energy, will always remain. Sound is literally just the vibration of air molecules hitting your eardrum. Light is a vibration of electromagnetic fields. Your own thoughts create measurable electrical vibrations in your brain. There is nothing in the known universe that is truly at rest. This is the principle of vibration. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. This is a principle that modern science has completely verified. From the tiniest atom to the largest galaxy, everything is in a constant state of motion. What we perceive as different forms of matter, energy, and even mind are just the result of different rates of vibration. Think of a fan. When it's off, you can see the individual blades clearly. It's solid. When you turn it on low, the blades start to blur. Their vibration has increased. You can still distinguish them, but they are becoming less distinct. If you could turn that fan up to an incredibly high speed, the blades would seem to disappear. They would look like a solid, transparent disc. You could even pass a small object through them. Their rate of vibration has become so high that they appear as something else entirely. The Kybalion says this is true for everything. The difference between a rock, a glass of water, and the air you breathe is just the rate of vibration of their molecules. The rock has a very low, dense vibration. The water is higher, the air is higher still. They are all made of the same basic stuff, just vibrating at different frequencies. But the Hermetic teachings take this much further. They say this principle applies to the mental and spiritual planes as well. The difference between a thought of hate and a thought of love is a difference in vibration. Hate is a low, heavy, dense mental vibration. Love is a high, light, fast mental vibration. The difference between a genius mind and a dull mind is not a difference in the substance of the mind, but in the rate at which that mind vibrates. The genius mind is vibrating at a high, rapid frequency, allowing it to process information quickly and make connections that others miss. This is where it connects to the other principles. Your mental state is your vibration, and you can change your vibration. This is the art of mental transmutation. When you are feeling depressed or angry, you are in a state of low vibration. To change that state, you need to raise your vibration. How? By using your will to focus on thoughts and feelings that have a higher vibration. You can't go from deep depression to ecstatic joy in one jump, just like you can't instantly heat a block of ice into steam. It takes a gradual raising of the vibration. You might start by focusing on a thought of simple gratitude. Gratitude has a higher vibration than despair. Then you might move to a thought of hope. Hope has a higher vibration than gratitude. Then to a thought of courage, and so on. You are consciously tuning your own mental instrument. This principle also explains phenomena like intuition and vibes. When you walk into a room where people have been arguing, you can feel the tension in the air. What you are feeling are the low, discordant mental vibrations left behind. When you meet someone and instantly like or dislike them, you are subconsciously picking up on their dominant mental vibration. You are sensing whether their frequency is in harmony or disharmony with your own. The universal mind, is said to be vibrating at an infinitely high frequency, so high that it appears to be at rest, just like a spinning top that moves so fast it looks perfectly still. As you move down the scale from the all, vibrations become lower and slower, creating the different planes of existence, the spiritual, the mental, and finally the physical. Your goal as a student is to learn to control your own vibrations, to consciously raise your frequency from the lower reactive emotions like fear, jealousy, and anger, to the higher creative states like love, courage, and peace. This isn't about ignoring the lower vibrations, it's about understanding that you have the power to change them. You are not your emotions, you are the one who experiences the vibrations of emotion, and you have the power to change the channel. By mastering your own vibration, you gain control over your own life, because like attracts like. If you are consistently vibrating at a frequency of lack and fear, you will tend to attract experiences and people that match that frequency. If you can learn to consistently vibrate at a frequency of confidence and abundance, you will find that your reality begins to shift to match it. It's not magic, It's the law of vibration. Number 8. What's the link between a star and a thought? The term macrocosm and microcosm is a classic expression of this principle, used by thinkers from the ancient Greek philosopher Democritus to the Renaissance physician Paracelsus. Paracelsus believed that the human body, the microcosm, was a map of the universe, the macrocosm, and that illnesses could be understood by studying the stars and planets. Fractals are a modern mathematical discovery that visually represent this principle. A fractal is a pattern that repeats itself at every scale. If you zoom in on a tiny piece of a fractal, you will see the same overall shape as the whole. These patterns are found everywhere in nature, from the branching of a tree, to the structure of a snowflake, to the shape of a coastline. The structure of an atom, with electrons orbiting a nucleus, looks remarkably similar to the structure of our solar system, with planets orbiting the sun. This is the principle of correspondence. As above, so below, as below, so above. This is one of the most famous and most profound of the Hermetic principles. It means there is a harmony, an agreement, a correspondence between the different planes of existence. The laws that govern the physical world have a corresponding version that governs the mental world and the spiritual world. By understanding one, you can start to understand the others. The above can mean the macrocosm, the universe, the galaxies, the stars. The below can mean the microcosm, the human being, the cell, the atom. The patterns are the same. The way a solar system forms from a spinning cloud of gas and dust is similar to the way an atom forms with its electrons. The laws of physics are consistent across scales, but more importantly for us, the above can also mean the mental or spiritual planes, while the below means the physical plane. This is the key. As above, so below means that your inner world, your thoughts, beliefs, and feelings, the above, corresponds to your outer world, your circumstances, health, and relationships, the below. Your outer reality is a mirror of your inner state. If your mind is filled with chaos, confusion, and conflict, your outer life will reflect that. You'll find yourself in chaotic situations, dealing with confusing people, and experiencing conflict. If you cultivate a mind of peace, order, and clarity, your outer life will begin to rearrange itself to match that state. This is a hard pill to swallow for many people. It means you can't blame anyone else for your life. Your life is a reflection. If you don't like the reflection you see in the mirror, you don't get angry and try to smash the mirror. You change the thing that is being reflected. You change yourself. Let's say you want to build a house. First, you must have a plan, a blueprint. That blueprint exists on the mental plane. It's an idea. That's the above. Then you take that mental plan and you use it to guide your actions on the physical plane. You pour the foundation, raise the walls, put on the roof. The physical house is the below. The physical house is a direct correspondence to the mental blueprint. If the blueprint was flawed, the house will be flawed. You cannot build a solid, well-designed house from a sloppy, incomplete blueprint. Your life works the same way. Your deeply held beliefs and habitual thought patterns are your mental blueprint. Your life circumstances are the physical building. If you have a deep-seated belief that you are not worthy of success, you can work as hard as you want, but you will find ways to sabotage yourself. Your physical reality will have to correspond with your mental blueprint. This principle is a powerful tool for self-discovery. If you want to know what your true beliefs are, don't just listen to what you say you believe. Look at your life. Your life is the perfect printout of your subconscious programming. Is your life full of financial struggle? Then on some level, you have a blueprint of lack. Are your relationships always full of drama? Then on some level, you have a blueprint for conflict. The good news is that you can change the blueprint. This is where the work is done. Not by struggling and forcing things in the outer world, but by going within and changing the patterns of thought. When you change the above, the below must follow. It is the law. This principle also allows us to reason about things we cannot see. We can't directly see the mind of the all, but we can look at the universe it has created. We can look at the laws of physics, at the cycles of nature, at the structure of our own minds. By studying the below, we can learn something about the above. We can understand our own mental and spiritual nature by observing the patterns of the physical world. The universe is not a random collection of things. It is a unified, coherent whole, and the same patterns echo through every level of it. The dance of the planets in the sky corresponds to the dance of your thoughts in your mind. Master one, and you unlock the secrets to the other. That is the promise of correspondence. Number 7. If everything is mind, what does that make you? The double-slit experiment in quantum physics demonstrates that particles, like electrons, behave differently when they are being observed. When no one is watching, they act like waves existing in multiple places at once. The moment an observer measures them, they collapse into a single particle in a single location. This suggests that the act of observation, a mental process, fundamentally affects the nature of physical reality. Philosophers like George Berkeley in the 18th century proposed a philosophy called idealism, which argued that reality is fundamentally mental and that things only exist to the extent that they are perceived. While controversial, this is a formal philosophical version of the principle of mentalism. The placebo effect is a well-documented medical phenomenon where a person's belief that they are receiving a real treatment can cause real physiological changes in their body, healing their symptoms even if they were only given a sugar pill. This is a direct example of the mind creating a physical reality. This is the first and most important of the 7 Hermetic principles. The principle of mentalism. It is the foundation for all the others. It states the all is mind, the universe is mental. Let's unpack that. It means that the underlying reality of everything in the universe is mind. Not that everything is in a mind, like a dream in the mind of a god, but that the very substance of the universe is mind. It's a single, infinite, living mind. The Kybalion calls this the all. This is a huge concept. It's the biggest idea in the whole book. It means that everything you see around you, the chair you're sitting on, the screen you're reading, the stars in the sky is, at its core, a thought in the mind of the all. It's a mental creation. This doesn't mean the universe isn't real. The chair is solid. If you kick it, you will hurt your toe. It is real to you. But its reality is relative, not absolute. The Kybalion uses an analogy. Think of an author writing a story. In the world of that story, the characters, the places, the events are all real. The characters can fall in love, fight battles, live and die. Their world has rules. But from the author's perspective, it's all a mental creation. It's all happening within the author's mind. The principle of mentalism says we are like the characters in the story. We exist within the mind of the all. The universe is the all's grand creation. The laws of physics, the properties of matter, the flow of time, these are the rules of the story that the all has created. So, what does that make you? You are also a part of this universal mind. You are not separate from it. Your mind is a part of the all's mind, just as a single wave is a part of the ocean. The wave isn't the whole ocean, but it's made of the exact same stuff as the ocean. Your mind is made of the exact same stuff as the universal mind. This means you have the same creative power, just on a smaller scale. Your personal reality is your own mental creation. You perceive the world through your senses, but your mind interprets that data. It filters it through your beliefs, your memories, your emotions. Two people can experience the exact same event and have completely different realities of it. One person sees a challenge as a terrifying obstacle. Another sees the same challenge as an exciting opportunity. The event is the same. The mental creation is different. This is the key that unlocks everything else. If the universe is mental, then it can be changed by mental means. This is the basis for what the Kybalion calls mental transmutation or mental alchemy. You can change your reality by changing your thoughts. This is not a simple think positive and get rich idea. It's much deeper. It means that your fundamental relationship to the universe is not that of a small, insignificant creature in a vast, uncaring machine. Your relationship is that of a mind within a mind. You are a creator. You are constantly creating your reality with your thoughts, whether you are aware of it or not. Most people create their reality unconsciously. They let their minds be filled with fear from the news, with envy from social media, with limiting beliefs from their childhood. And so they create a reality of fear, envy, and limitation, and then they think that's just the way the world is. The student of Hermetics learns to take conscious control of their own mental world. They learn to choose their thoughts, they learn to focus their attention, they understand that their mind is a powerful creative tool. By changing their mind, they change their vibration. By changing their vibration, they change their reality. This first principle is the most difficult to grasp, but it is the most important. Once you truly accept the idea that the universe is mental, the other 6 principles become the instruction manual for how to operate within that mental universe. You are a mental being living in a mental universe, and that means you have far more power to shape your life than you have ever been taught to believe. Number 6, who were the 3 initiates, really? The publisher of the Kybalion was the Yogi Publication Society, a small mail-order company based in Chicago. This company was owned and operated by William Walker Atkinson, a prolific writer in the New Thought movement. One of the strongest theories is that 3 initiates was a pseudonym for Atkinson himself. He was known to use many different pseudonyms throughout his career to write on different topics, sometimes even reviewing his own books under a different name. Another theory suggests that Atkinson collaborated with 2 other people. The most likely candidates are Paul Foster Case, a prominent occultist and founder of the Builders of the Adytum, and Elias Gawers, a bookseller and writer on esoteric topics who was a known associate of Atkinson. There is no definitive proof, and all parties involved remained silent on the matter for their entire lives, deepening the mystery. So, who actually wrote this book? The title page says it was written by 3 initiates. This name itself is a puzzle. It implies that the authors were not just writers, but people who had been initiated into a secret school of wisdom. It gives the book an air of authority and mystery right from the start. But who were they? The truth is, nobody knows for sure. The authors chose to remain anonymous. The book's preface explains why. They felt the teachings themselves were what mattered, not the personalities of the people who wrote them down. They wanted the principles to stand on their own merit, without being tied to a specific person's reputation. They wrote that the words of the book should be judged on their own value, and that the lips of wisdom are closed except to the ears of understanding. This anonymity has led to a lot of speculation over the last century. The most common and well-supported theory points to a man named William Walker Atkinson. Atkinson was a lawyer, a merchant, and a very successful writer from the American Midwest. In the late 1800s, he experienced a breakdown from stress and financial trouble. He said he found healing and a new purpose in the New Thought movement, a popular philosophy at the time that emphasized the power of the mind to heal the body and create success. Atkinson became an incredibly productive author. He wrote over 100 books on topics ranging from yoga and memory enhancement to mysticism and personal magnetism. He wrote many of these under various pen names like Yogi Ramacharaka and Theron Q. Dumont. The writing style of the Kybalion writer, its direct, clear, and logical prose is very similar to Atkinson's other known works. He also owned the company that published it. So it's almost certain that Atkinson was at least one of the 3 initiates, and possibly the sole author. But if Atkinson wrote it, why the name 3 initiates? It could have been a marketing tactic to make the book seem more mysterious and ancient. Or it could be that he really did collaborate with others. 2 names often come up in this speculation. One is Paul Foster Case. Case was a brilliant young occultist who later founded his own influential esoteric school. He was connected to Atkinson's circle in Chicago around the time the Kybalion was written. His own later writings show a deep understanding of Hermetic principles, and some people see parallels in their work. Another possible collaborator is Elias Gawers. He was a fellow author and bookseller in the esoteric scene. Like Atkinson, he was interested in a wide range of spiritual topics. It's plausible they could have worked together. But there's no smoking gun. No letters or documents have ever surfaced to confirm who the other 2 initiates were, or if they even existed. The secret was well kept. In the end, maybe the author's stated reason is the best one to accept. Does it really matter who wrote it? The power of the Kybalion isn't in its author's biography. Its power is in the ideas themselves. The principles it describes are universal. They weren't invented in 1908. The book claims only to be a restatement of ancient teachings that have been passed down for thousands of years. The anonymity forces the reader to engage directly with the text. You can't be impressed by the author's credentials or put off by their reputation. You have to read the words, think about the ideas, and decide for yourself if they make sense. You have to test them in your own life. Perhaps the greatest lesson from the 3 initiates is that the messenger is not important. The message is everything. Number 5 was Hermes a god, a man, or a myth? The city of Alexandria in ancient Egypt, founded by Alexander the Great in 331 BC, became the intellectual center of the world. Its great library housed hundreds of thousands of scrolls. It was here that Egyptian and Greek philosophies merged, and the figure of the Egyptian god Thoth was combined with the Greek god Hermes to create the composite figure of Hermes Trismegistus. The name Trismegistus means thrice greatest. One theory is that this refers to his mastery of the three parts of the wisdom of the whole universe: alchemy, astrology, and theurgy, the art of divine magic. Another theory is that it confirms he was great as a king, a philosopher, and a priest. Texts attributed to him, known as the Hermetica, were hugely influential on Renaissance thinkers like Leonardo da Vinci and Giordano Bruno. Bruno was famously burned at the stake in 1600 for his beliefs, which included the Hermetic idea that the universe was infinite and contained countless worlds. The Kybalion claims to be a summary of the teachings of a legendary figure named Hermes Trismegistus. But who was this person? The answer is complicated. He's part myth, part history, and part symbol. According to the legend described in the book, Hermes was an ancient master of wisdom who lived in Egypt long before the time of the pharaohs. He was a contemporary of Abraham. He was known as the scribe of the gods and the master of masters. The teachings attributed to him were considered the foundation of all the major philosophies and religions of the ancient world. They formed a secret doctrine, an esoteric teaching that was only passed down orally from master to student. Historically, things are a bit more murky. The figure of Hermes Trismegistus seems to have emerged from a blending of two gods. The ancient Egyptians had a god of wisdom and writing named Thoth. He was often depicted with the head of an ibis bird. When the Greeks came to Egypt, they noticed that Thoth had a lot in common with their own god, Hermes, who was the messenger of the gods and a patron of knowledge. They started to see them as the same deity. This blending of cultures and gods was common at the time. They called this combined figure Hermes, the thrice greatest, or Hermes Trismegistus. So, was he a real person? Some ancient writers believed he was. They thought he was a real historical king or prophet who was later deified. Others saw him as a purely symbolic figure, a name given to a body of wisdom that was developed by many different people over many centuries. During the Renaissance in Europe, there was a huge revival of interest in these Hermetic texts. Scholars believed they had rediscovered a pure, ancient wisdom that predated both Greek philosophy and Christianity. This had a massive impact on the development of science, religion, and philosophy at the time. However, in the early 1600s, a scholar named Isaac Casaubon proved that the texts were not as old as everyone thought. He showed that they were likely written much later, in the first few centuries AD, and were heavily influenced by Greek philosophy. For a long time, this discovery discredited the Hermetic writings, but the modern view is more nuanced. While the texts may have been written down later, they likely do contain a core of much older Egyptian and Greek wisdom. The ideas themselves are ancient, even if the specific books are not. The Kybalion takes the legendary view. It treats Hermes as a real historical master, the founder of the secret wisdom. For the purposes of understanding the book, it doesn't really matter whether you believe he was a real man, a god, or a symbol. What matters are the teachings themselves. The name Hermes became synonymous with secret knowledge. That's where we get the word hermetic. When you hermetically seal a jar, you are closing it off so tightly that nothing can get in or out. In the same way, the Hermetic teachings were said to be sealed off from the general public. They were not for the masses, they were only for the initiates, the students who were ready and worthy to receive them. This was not about being elitist. The book explains it was because the teachings could be dangerous if misunderstood. Giving a powerful tool to someone who doesn't know how to use it can cause more harm than good. A child playing with fire is a good analogy. So, think of Hermes Trismegistus as the source, the legendary fountainhead of the ideas in the Kybalion. He represents the ancient, timeless wisdom that the book is trying to make accessible. Whether he was one man or many, a human or a god, is a mystery lost to time. But the legacy of his name is the philosophy itself. Number 4, what is the all? In many Eastern philosophies, there is a similar concept to the all. In Hinduism, it is called Brahman, the ultimate unchanging reality that exists beneath the illusion of the physical world. In Taoism, it is the Tao, the natural underlying order of the universe that is beyond description. Spinoza, a 17th century philosopher, argued that God and nature were two names for the same single, infinite substance, a view called pantheism, which is very close to the concept of the all. Modern theoretical physics, in its search for a theory of everything, is trying to find a single mathematical framework that would describe all of our reality's forces and particles, a scientific attempt to define the operating system of the all. Before we can get into any of the 7 principles, we have to talk about the biggest, most fundamental idea in the Kybalion. It's the concept of the all. The book states, under and back of the universe of time, space, and change is ever to be found the substantial reality, the fundamental truth. This substantial reality is the all. So what is it? The Kybalion is very clear that the all is, by its very nature, unknowable and undefinable. Any definition you try to put on it will limit it, and it is by definition unlimited. Anything you can say about it is not it. It's infinite, absolute, and eternal. Trying to fully grasp it with our finite human minds is like trying to hold the entire ocean in a teacup. It's impossible, but we can reason about it. We can try to understand some of its aspects. The book lays out a few key points. First, the all must be all that there is. There can be nothing outside of the all, because if there were, it wouldn't be the all. This means that you, me, the planet, the entire universe are all in the all. Not just in it, but a part of it. There is nowhere else to be. Second, the all must be infinite. It must be infinite in space, because there is no space outside of it to limit it. It must be infinite in time, because it has always existed, it is eternal, and it must be infinite in power, because there is no other power to challenge or limit it. Third, the all must be immutable or unchanging. It cannot change, because there is nothing to change it into, nothing to change it from, and nothing to cause the change. It is constant. Now, this presents a puzzle. We live in a universe that is constantly changing. We see birth, death, growth, and decay everywhere. How can a changing universe exist within an unchanging all? This is the great paradox. The Kybalion's answer to this is the first and most important principle: the all is mind. The universe is a mental creation of the all. Think about it this way. You can create a whole universe in your own mind. You can imagine people, places, and stories. These things can change. Your characters can be born, they can grow old, they can die. Your imaginary world can have a whole history. All of this change and activity is happening within your mind. But you, the thinker, are not changing. Your ability to create is constant. The Kybalion suggests that the all creates the universe in a similar way. It's a vast, ongoing mental process. The universe is like a thought, or a series of thoughts, held in the mind of the all. This explains how change is possible. The creations can change, but the creator, mind behind them, is changeless. This also means that the all is not some distant, separate God who watches over the world from afar. The all is immanent, it is within everything. The very substance of the universe is the mind of the all. A rock is a thought of the all. A star is a thought of the all. You are a thought of the all. This is not to say that you are the all. The book is very clear on this point. You are a mental creation, not the creator itself. But you are made of the same mental substance. You are a finite mind living within an infinite mind. Understanding this concept is crucial. It's the starting point for everything else. If you don't grasp the idea that the universe is mental, the other principles won't make sense. They are the rules of how this mental universe operates. The concept of the all is the context. It's the answer to the big questions. Where did everything come from? What is it all made of? And what is our place in it? The Kybalion's answer is simple and profound. It all came from the all. It's all made of mind, and we are minds within that one great mind. Number 3, why was this knowledge kept secret for so long? The Pythagorean school in ancient Greece was a famous example of a secret society dedicated to wisdom. Initiates had to go through years of silence and study before they were taught the inner mysteries of mathematics and cosmology. The Druids, the priest class of the ancient Celts, passed down their extensive knowledge of law, history, and nature purely by word of mouth, committing vast amounts of information to memory. It was forbidden to write it down. This ensured the knowledge stayed within their order. Many medieval craft guilds, like the stonemasons who built the great cathedrals, had secret signs and passwords to protect their trade secrets from outsiders. This was a practical economic reason for secrecy. The Kybalion itself states that this secrecy was a core tenet of the original Hermetic schools, summed up in its axiom, "The lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding." A core theme of the Kybalion is the idea of secrecy. The book presents itself as a revelation of knowledge that has been hidden for thousands of years. It was passed down from master to neophyte by word of mouth and was never meant for the general public. But why? Why hide something so important? The book gives a few reasons. The main one is that the teachings were considered a sacred trust. They were seen as incredibly powerful. The principles, especially the art of mental transmutation, could give a person great influence over their own life and the lives of others. In the wrong hands, this power could be used for selfish or destructive purposes. Think of it like being given the keys to a powerful machine. If you give those keys to someone who is responsible, mature, and has been trained to use the machine, they can do great things with it. But if you give the same keys to someone who is reckless, ignorant, or has bad intentions, they could cause a lot of damage to themselves and to others. The ancient teachers, according to the Kybalion, were very careful about who they shared this knowledge with. They would only accept students who were ready. Being ready didn't just mean being curious. It meant having the right character and the right motivation. The student had to be seeking wisdom for its own sake, not just for personal gain. They had to have purified their mind of base desires like greed and vanity. The teachers had a saying, "To sow seed in barren ground is a waste of time and good seed." They didn't want to waste their time on students who weren't prepared to do the hard inner work required. Another reason for the secrecy was to protect the teachings from persecution. Throughout history, new ideas have often been seen as a threat to established power structures, whether religious or political. People who taught things that went against the mainstream dogma were often ridiculed, imprisoned, or worse. The Gnostics, the Knights Templar, and many other groups who held esoteric beliefs were suppressed. By keeping the teachings secret and passing them down orally, the Hermeticists could ensure their survival. The knowledge could fly under the radar, preserved by a chain of trusted individuals. It was a survival strategy. There's also the idea that the knowledge can't be truly understood by those who aren't ready for it. The Kybalion says the lips of wisdom are closed, except to the ears of understanding. This means that you can explain these principles to someone, but if their mind is not open to them, the words will have no meaning. They'll dismiss it as nonsense or superstition. People can only hear what they are ready to hear. This is why the book itself says that it will only find its way to those who are ready for its message. The very act of you picking up the book and being interested in it is a sign that you are, on some level, prepared to understand it. So, why was the book published in 1908? Why was the veil of secrecy finally lifted? The authors of the Kybalion believed that the world was entering a new era. They felt that humanity had reached a point in its evolution where more people were ready for this knowledge. The rise of science had opened people's minds to the idea of universal laws, and new spiritual movements were creating a hunger for a deeper understanding of reality. The authors felt it was time to put the core principles out into the world in a clear, simple form. They weren't revealing all the secrets. The book is just an introduction, a master key that can unlock further doors of understanding for the dedicated student. But they were making the first step accessible to anyone who was genuinely seeking it. The age of absolute secrecy was over. The age of personal discovery had begun. Number 2, how can a book from 1908 still be relevant? The Kybalion was published just 3 years after Albert Einstein published his theory of special relativity, which completely changed our understanding of space and time. It came out during a period of immense change when old certainties were collapsing and new ideas were emerging in science, art, and philosophy. The book was part of a wider cultural movement known as New Thought. This movement, which also gave rise to groups like Christian Science, focused on the power of the mind to heal and shape reality. Many of the core ideas of New Thought were simplified versions of the Hermetic principles found in the Kybalion. While the Kybalion itself never became a mainstream bestseller, its ideas seeped into the culture and heavily influenced later self-help and spiritual books, most notably The Secret, which is largely a repackaging of the principle of mentalism and the principle of vibration. The book's publisher, the Yogi Publication Society, still exists today and continues to print the Kybalion, a testament to its quiet but enduring popularity for over a century. So, this is a book that was written over 100 years ago. It talks about ancient Egyptian wisdom. Why should we care about it today? We live in a world of smartphones, artificial intelligence, and space exploration. What can a little book from 1908 possibly teach us? The answer is that the Kybalion isn't about technology or current events. It's about the fundamental laws of the universe, and those laws don't change. Gravity worked the same way in ancient Egypt as it does today. And according to the book, the mental and spiritual laws it describes are just as timeless. The context in which the book was written is important. The early 20th century was a time of huge upheaval. Science was making incredible discoveries. The old religious certainties were being questioned. People were looking for a new way to understand the world and their place in it. The Kybalion offered a framework that seemed to bridge the gap between science and spirituality. It talked about universal laws, vibration, and energy concepts that felt modern and scientific, but it placed them within a spiritual context of a universal mind and personal evolution. This is why it's still relevant. We live in a similar time of rapid change and uncertainty. Many people feel disconnected, anxious, and powerless. The Kybalion offers a philosophy of personal empowerment. It says you are not a helpless victim of circumstance. You are a creator. You have the power to change your life by changing your mind. This is a message that is just as needed today, if not more so, than it was in 1908. The principles themselves are incredibly practical. The principle of cause and effect teaches you to take responsibility for your life and become a creator of your circumstances, not just a reactor to them. The principle of rhythm helps you understand and navigate the natural ups and downs of life, from your moods to your finances. The principle of polarity gives you a tool to manage your emotions, transforming fear into courage and anger into peace. These are not abstract philosophical ideas. They are tools for living. They provide a user's manual for the human mind and the universe it inhabits. Furthermore, many of the ideas in the Kybalion have been echoed, in a way, by modern science. The idea that everything is vibration is now a cornerstone of physics. The idea that the observer affects the observed is a key finding of quantum mechanics. The book is not a science textbook, and it uses its own language, but the core concepts are surprisingly resonant with some of the most advanced scientific thinking. But the most important reason the Kybalion endures is that it speaks to a fundamental human need, the need for meaning. It presents a picture of the universe that is not cold, random, and meaningless. It describes a universe that is alive, intelligent, and orderly. It tells you that your life has a purpose and that you are an important part of a grand cosmic design. In a world that can often feel chaotic and purposeless, that is a powerful and enduring message. It doesn't matter that the book was written in 1908. The questions it tries to answer are the same questions humans have been asking for thousands of years. Who am I? Why am I here? And how can I live a better life? The Kybalion offers a set of answers that have stood the test of time. Number 1, what if reality isn't what it seems? The author of the book, who wrote under the pseudonym 3 Initiates, has never been definitively identified, creating a mystery that lasts to this day. The teachings in the book are attributed to a figure named Hermes Trismegistus, who is himself a blend of the Greek god Hermes and the Egyptian god Thoth. The book claims its principles are the secret foundation upon which all major religions and philosophies have been built, passed down in secret for millennia. Its central idea, that the universe is entirely a mental creation, is one of the oldest philosophical concepts in the world, appearing in ancient Hindu texts thousands of years ago. The Kybalion has never been a mainstream bestseller, yet it has been continuously in print since 1908 and has quietly influenced countless spiritual and self-help movements of the last century. Let's start with a simple question. Look at the world around you, your room, the street outside. It all seems solid, real, unchanging. But what if it's not? What if the reality you experience every day is only one layer of a much deeper, more complex picture? What if the universe operates according to a set of rules that you were never taught in school? This is the central idea behind the Kybalion. It's a small book, first published in 1908, that claims to be a summary of an ancient, secret philosophy known as Hermeticism. The name comes from the legendary teacher Hermes Trismegistus, or Hermes the Thrice Greatest, who is said to have lived in ancient Egypt and laid down the core principles of a secret wisdom. The book is not a religion, it's not a set of commandments, it describes itself as a master key for understanding how reality works. It lays out 7 fundamental principles, or axioms, that it says govern everything in the universe, from the formation of a star to a thought passing through your mind. The goal of this guide is to break down these ideas in a simple, straightforward way. We're going to strip away the mysterious language and get to the core of what each principle means and how it might apply to your life. This isn't about blindly believing what a century-old book says. It's about exploring a set of ideas, a different model of reality, and seeing if it makes sense to you. The promise of the Kybalion is that if you understand these 7 principles and learn to apply them, you can move from being a passive observer of your life to an active participant. You can learn to work with the laws of the universe instead of constantly fighting against them. We're going to look at each principle one by one. We'll explore ideas like, is the universe really made of matter, or is it something else entirely? Is there a connection between your thoughts and your circumstances? Why do our lives seem to move in cycles of good times and bad times? And is there anything we can do about it? Are things like good and evil, or love and hate, truly opposites, or are they something else? This isn't just an intellectual exercise. The book calls its philosophy the art of mental alchemy. The ancient alchemists were supposedly trying to turn lead into gold. The Kybalion says this was just a metaphor. The real alchemy was about turning the lead of your own confused, reactive mind into the gold of a clear, purposeful, and powerful consciousness. It's about personal transformation. So, for now, just hold on to that one question. What if reality isn't what it seems? Keep an open mind. The ideas we're about to explore might challenge some of your most basic assumptions about the world, but they might also provide some answers to the questions you've been asking all along.